The message coming through with this receive your worthiness card is their ceiling is your floor. You are a very high vibrational being embodying a human experience temporarily. You are someone who comes from a higher octave of reality, and you can consider yourself to be a traveler or somebody who is simply here on vacation. Yes, you are bound by the laws of the physical material world, but the idea of karma or like karmic loops from past lives that other souls incarnate within human spirit experiences in the here and now must contend with, must kind of work their way through or find themselves in the midst of, doesn't apply to you in the same way. Your ability to read between the lines, to even perceive and recognize the nature of certain karmic cycles that you may have found yourself within in this lifetime that you have been working diligently to try and understand and to free yourself from, sets you apart from many others that you are around or that are embodied on the earth plane at this time, who either can't believe in, can't understand, can't kind of like equate the nature of free will, choice, and consequence within that realm of the concept of karma. They feel it, if anything, as like a yoke that is non-negotiable. This is just my karma. I'm forced to just play out this storyline. Versus you, who it feels like you may have kind of had that belief at a certain point in time or up to a certain period. Maybe you were not really thinking about the idea of karma. That wasn't part of like what you were taught growing up. It wasn't part of your culture. It wasn't part of your mindset or part of your focus. But then at some point in time, you came to the realization of that, or you started being curious about that or looking about that, good karma versus bad karma. And rather than feeling just sort of fated to like, this is the path that I'm forced to walk, as the repercussion of things even in past lifetimes that I've done that have yielded certain circumstances in the here and now, you have announce this kind of higher octave frequency within yourself by understanding that those laws of karma are very mutable. This is not something that is meant to just kind of eternally sort of bind you within a particular pathway, but you have taken steps to do your shadow work, to really kind of surrender to and actively walk your ascension path, your spiritual journey in this lifetime. And it is in the midst of that that your essence, it feels like, your energy, how you emanate as a person in general, the ripples that you cause in the space-time continuum simply by being yourself in an ever unfolding way, that is what sets you apart from others. This is something that for some may feel very lonely and very isolating, but these energies are really encouraging you to start to find a sense of personal empowerment within that. That again, what others may perceive as like a ceiling that they are looking up towards, or, must find a way to kind of break through, or even see as like an impossible task, something that is not within their ability to kind of transcend. This is the floor that you walk upon. There are higher peaks for you where others are in the midst of a valley. And it is from that mindset that it feels like a lot of you are ready to align with kind of a deeper understanding of the purpose of your journey in this lifetime. If you are here as a traveler, if you are here like on vacation, why did you come here? Why did you choose this? Beyond sort of the concepts of like, the suffering of the human experience, or, as like a manifestation of the divine, learning of itself through the human experience. Beyond those kind of concepts, or that kind of very limited model of the human experience, it feels like there's something more that is accessible for you. It's like you've graduated beyond that level of sort of like group think or group consciousness, or something that maybe applies to other souls that aren't as evolved as you are. You may be around a lot of young souls at this time. You could be someone that, identifies with being like an old soul, or even an ancient soul would be maybe a more appropriate definition of that. And so at this point, it's like you have all of these kind of energetic resources within you, a lot of spiritual tools within your toolbox that you have cultivated or that have come online for you, and that you've been, tasked to work with, or you've been very curious about, to where you're really encouraged at this point, like, if what I'm sort of looking at or dealing with energetically or actually is a floor, where for others this is a ceiling, well, then what does my ceiling represent? How can I reach beyond that? How can I not look at the fact that, you might be somebody who resonates as being like a black sheep, or the goat, somebody that it's kind of like an outliner, kind of like divergent in some sort of way from people around you, communities around you. It may be hard to like find people in your material life that you share similar interests with, or, similar ways of kind of like viewing life and viewing reality, that you're at a point within your experience and kind of the human population around you, the point within their experience where there's enough wiggle room for others to kind of walk the path that they are on, or that is kind of like the maximum possibility for them at their point of evolution that they are at as an energy and as a soul. You now have the ability to, in an empowered way, sort of embark on this like journey of a pioneer, an exploration of what is my ceiling. What is something that this set apart energy, more than just making me feel lonely or having to learn to love myself or to be my own best friend, or, what some may call like the energy of a chosen one, for example. And, people say like God isolates the chosen ones, like beyond all those kind of just concepts or those cliches. This is like really the time to start to embrace that energy inside of yourself that says this wasn't accidental. Like if everything is kind of a deliberate experience, if your soul has signed up for something in this incarnation, then what is that? You've already come to understand your karmic cycles, or your karmic energy, or yourself as kind of transcendent, or having the ability to transcend beyond those things sufficiently enough that it feels like this is the opportunity for you to build beyond that concept. Not wait to be included back into a fold, or kind of like searching to align with a soul tribe or a soul family, or, finding like a place of belonging. But this is almost a point in time where you're really encouraged to sort of celebrate that higher octave of energy that you are the embodiment of, that you put out into the environments that you are in, the lives of the people that you touch. Sometimes they'll be, triggered in a very positive way and they'll be inspired. Sometimes they'll be triggered in a negative way and they'll be reactionary. None of that is kind of your concern. This is the time to kind of use that higher mind and sort of look at this as a portal of time where there is the ability to, explore that kind of expanse between the floor that you are standing on, and reaching to come to a place of discovery. What does the ceiling look like for me? We also have create. So some of you have like a project, a passion project, a brainchild, something that you have been working on behind the scenes, and you might get kind of lost in the details, fine tuning everything, or you're like super protective over it, like a helicopter parent. And there's a sense that some of your concepts, some of your ideas, some of your methods may be different from other people, or it feels very kind of next level. There may be a lot of fear of rejection over sort of letting this out, putting it out for the world to take in. There's a need to understand that, like, yeah, not everything's going to be understood. It can't be. It's not meant to, because you're operating at that higher octave frequency. You're simply shining like a fraction of your light out into the collective conscious, or into sort of the groups or the communities or the people that are meant to kind of resonate with whatever this is you're putting out. The message, the imagery, the product, the thing, the service, the modality, whatever that looks like. For some of you, this is something where it's kind of like you have that ability to sort of fly around within the scope of this kind of metaphorical room that you occupy, where you are standing upon a particular floor that others don't perceive as such, but there's a long distance between where you are and that ceiling. And in that distance, that's this creative portal. That's this void space, this primordial womb, where some aspect of you is able to impress itself into the material world through the instrument of you, as the artist, as the channel, as the inventor, as the creator. And there's a sense of putting your full focus at this point on that. Either continuing to like work on what you're working on behind the scenes, or for some of you, it's like you've just been getting kind of like lost in the details, and there's a need to kind of just push it out there, push it into the deep end, and trust that it will learn to swim. For others of you, this is something where if you've been investing like a lot of kind of emotional energy, and sort of like, I don't know why I don't fit in, where's my people, where's my soul tribe, I'm looking for that place of belonging. It's kind of like you're just feeling around in the four walls of that room, not recognizing you're standing upon a floor with a lot of room for growth and momentum within this particular space. And that sense of belonging, it isn't meant to be found by like reaching down, digging down through whatever it is that you are like standing upon, or whatever it is that you have kind of been moved away from or have chosen to gravitate beyond. That this is the time to like alchemize that energy of longing or yearning or frustration, or even just the wonder of kind of like being on your ascension path, coming to really sort of scratch beyond the surface of ideas like karma and what it means to be like a spiritual being having a human experience, beyond just those kind of bumper sticker phrases or things that sound really good when you're attaching hashtags to it. Like, what does that really mean? What does that really embody as far as the lived experience? Beyond what you're putting on the t-shirt, how do you carry that forth in your interpersonal relationships, and the choices that you make for yourself, in the life that you are choosing to build or are reaching for? That this is the time to really kind of repurpose almost something that might be like nervous energy, agitated energy, because there's a lot of inspiration inside. Like there's this muse that lives inside of you that is taking in the nature of kind of like the world as it is, both as you're able to perceive it and beyond your perceptions at this point, because you're able to tap into that higher octave frequency. You are a traveler within this world. And not only are you kind of taking souvenirs through your experiences in the here and now, but there's something that you're meant to leave behind as well. For those of you resonating with this, you're not meant to live like an arbitrary experience. You're not meant to be a forgettable person. It feels like you're the type of person you couldn't blend in if you tried. Even when you are silent, your energy speaks volumes. You make waves. You create ripples everywhere you go. Even if it's just a silent presence, even if you're just kind of like moving through environments and circumstances, and that's not accidental. A lot of you, it feels like, also have a fear of being seen in the fullness of who you are. You got a lot of attention, a lot of eyes on you, even without trying. And that may be something that like conditioning within, or just a sense of kind of like, this is different from how others around me are perceived. It's almost like you take it into a negative place, or interpret it as something to be like protective about, vigilant over. That it's kind of that idea of like, ooh, there's eyes on me, there's envy, that's a bad thing. I gotta waste my emotional energy pushing that away, building walls, protecting myself. And there's a sense of almost like you're a star that is shining within a sky that others see. And it is with a sense of curiosity that you are beheld, that you operate at that higher octave or frequency, or you emanate from such a place that negativity, it's just shouts from the bottom of the mountain. You're hovering above the mountaintop. So it's time to stop putting so much focus on kind of insulating and isolating yourself, and let that light shine even brighter. Let those shouts from below be the proof that you need, that you are on some kind of higher tier or higher level, and that there's a purpose for this, that it is not egoically based. It's an emanation of you as a soul. It's part of your frequency. It's what you brought with you into this lifetime, into this human experience, not so that you would suffer needlessly, or so that you'd be an outcast, or somebody that have difficulty kind of like walking a traditional path, walking an ordinary path, living a quote normal life, But there's something that is, there's like a deeper reason or a deeper purpose for that. That your energies, your efforts, your intellect, your creativity, your imagination is well served at this particular point in time by looking at not what do I have to like break down in terms of, the level of connectivity between myself and that perception of like the difference between me and others, but what can I create from that? If I am set apart, what am I meant to kind of leave as a legacy that is very unique? Unique compared to what I've allowed myself to do or believe I could do up to this point in time. Unique from what others around me are doing. Unique from the things that I've been interested in, the communities that I've been a part of, the things that I've explored or experimented with, that maybe there's a niche, a need that needs to be filled. Something that hasn't even been created yet that you're meant to come here and create. This is a very potent time where there's almost like nothing that stands in your way except for that energy of like self-resistance. Some of you need to simply just give yourself permission to accept the fact that it's like, yeah, I have transcended into a higher understanding of myself, and I couldn't go back to the old me even if I tried. I've distilled myself beyond illusion so much I cannot condense myself back into that sleep mode. I am aware enough of myself and the infinite potentials of all that can be, to the point where I couldn't pretend to be ignorant of these things. It's not a mask that would fit. It wouldn't be convincing anymore. I couldn't hide in plain sight even if I tried. We also have surrender the resistance. Yeah, so some of you have been getting a particular calling, a particular nudge for quite some time, and it's like almost like you set an alarm on your phone and you keep hitting the snooze button because it's something that requires you to release that kind of all those inhibitions within that you would need to kind of like ask permission to embody this version of you. Or it may be something where your ideas or what you're trying to create or what you've been working on or what you're even kind of called to explore, like a first step in that direction. It's so different from what others are doing that you need to give yourself permission or allow yourself to recognize, I am part of a wave of the next step forward. For a lot of you, this is something where, tried and true kind of like ideas, maybe about spirituality, for example, methods, modalities, beliefs, interpretations, traditions, practices, rituals, all of those things which may serve kind of like the status quo or the masses or have worked up to a certain point in time, worked for you up to a period of time. You're that person. You're part of that group of people that is like, okay, what's the next interpretation? What's the next way to apply these theories, these ideas, these practices, and to make it relevant, not just for the here and now, but for where kind of the human species is headed, where the innovation of tomorrow is leading people for better or worse. How can I get in there? Where does my light most need to be shined at this time that may be further along the horizon than you can perceive at this moment? A lot of you are innovators. And so there's a sense of kind of like hiding or holding back because there's almost like, is the world ready for this? Am I ready for this? Am I just going to be laughed at? Is this something where people aren't going to understand that, or it's so different? It's totally the opposite of what others are doing, what others are kind of gravitating towards, or what others are saying, like, no, this is the truth. This is the reality. This is the way it is. This is how you have to do things. And yeah, that works for people on a certain frequency, a certain like level of consciousness, or even in terms of that idea of like young souls, old souls, ancient souls. There's things that work for people at a certain evolutionary level. In lifetimes to come, something different will work for them. But you, where you are in the here and now, as this higher octave of energy, of consciousness, of soul embodied within the human experience, having walked your path as you have, having been called in the directions that you have been, moving in the way that you have been, or that you feel very strongly inside of you that you should, you're meant to be the one that kind of like acknowledges that certain boundaries have been broken through and that this isn't a negative thing. It's lighting that way forward for others, leaving a legacy, leaving an impact, leaving an imprint in a way that will be literal and also is something which is so liminal that it extends far beyond kind of the memory of you, beyond this lifetime, beyond the impression or feelings that people have of what you do, who you are, what you create, how you live your life, beyond this human experience. It's that ripple in the space-time continuum. And it's part of that reason that you are this embodiment of this higher octave of energy, that you have traveled here into this experience, into this window of time, as you, where you are, with all the things you still have to achieve and all that you have overcome, with all of your losses and all of your victories and all of that rich potential that still exists. And so these energies are really encouraging you to just embrace fully where you are in this moment. And if you're going to apply yourself to anything at this point, you are best served in terms of really finding fulfillment or making fulfillment out of this opportunity of life that you have in the here and now, by finding those barriers inside of yourself that says, I must shrink, I must be hidden, I must, make myself palpable to others, I must be understood, I must be trendy, I must be somebody that stays in line with everything else. This is that time to be bold, to color outside the lines, to allow yourself to swim against the current, and to understand that this is what the ride is for. This is what this journey is for. This is why you traveled here. This is part of that purpose. In whatever ways you then are called to kind of bring that forth, put your unique signature on whatever it is you're inclined to create, or even in terms of the ways you're inclined to beautify your life even more by becoming that loud embodiment of your authenticity, your truth, regardless of what others think, regardless of if it's understood or supported or not. That in many ways it's like you aren't meant to be fathomed fully, because you are that higher octave of energy that transcends all of that. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. Like or comment to claim these energies. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content that I put out here. Don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. And if you would like to book a personal reading with me, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.